Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Morons Review Movies Horror Week. This week we are going to be discussing Hocus Pocus and the word that I have real difficulty in saying of Hereditary. Was that better?
That was good.
Yes.
Yeah, much better.
You get there.
I've been practicing all week, guys. I'll fuck it up later though, so don't worry. But first of all, thank you very much to those who are joining us live on Twitch, as we do go every Monday at 9 p.m. And a big welcome to those that are catching us on the podcast, as 41 separate people did for the last week's episode. You'll find us on Apple Podcast and Amazon Music as well in their podcast section. So thank you to those 41 people that took the time to download and listen to our podcast. So this week we are in Horror Week, but before we jump into this week, just a quick recap on what we had last week, but put it out to the morons and ask them who remembers the movies that we even watched last week.
Trainspotting and 28 Days Later. That was it.
Aye.
I remembered the good one.
We got a lot. We got a lot of hate. That's probably the most hate we've ever had for a score so far. Was 28 Days Later. Like, people were fuming. Funny though.
Yeah, well, if you do follow us on Instagram, you will see some of the comments that went underneath that there, and I think there was a bit of a back and forth between a few of us morons that were arguing our point when it comes to Instagram. But we did score 28 Days Later, a lowly 1.6, making it number 65 on the moron leaderboard. But Trainspotting, on a more positive note, did come in at a 4.35, sitting at joint fifth with The Wolf of Wall Street. So I think that's quite a positive week for us. We generally shit all over movies constantly. So,
we also watched Hotel Rwanda for Laurie as well, remember?
Oh yeah.
Fuck, I forgot about that.
She was shouting through the living room when she had her scores, I'm sure you said, Kyle.
She was, she wouldn't be shouting in Kyle's living room, it was my living room.
Well,
she shouted in my living room the other night. But Hotel Rwanda came in at number 52 on the leaderboard. Rwanda. A 2.29, so also quite a low scoring because it was quite a shite film.
that's only got the 2 point above a 2 because Laurie gave it a 5. Remember?
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
It would have been down there.
What we'll do, I'm just going to add the asterisk to it just now whilst I remember. We'll add it to only Laurie's movie for her cheek. How about that? Okay, guys, so this week is Horror Week. It was a really competitive week when it came to Instagram, though, wasn't it, Dan? There was quite a lot of people engaging with this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably call this more Halloween than horror, because Hocus Pocus isn't really a horror, but because we're doing Halloween this week and next week, we sort of broke it up into different types of Halloween movie. So Hocus Pocus won the sort of family-friendly section, beat Ghostbusters in the final, but that was very tight, like loads of votes in that. And then Hereditary was in the sort of supernatural element side of the Horror Week, which is what Shaun normally hates. So I'm interested to see what he thought about this.
There we go. Just a quick one on Ghostbusters. I know I sent you guys a picture when I was at the cinema yesterday. I had no idea a new Ghostbusters movie was coming.
Yeah, it'll be absolute shite, man. Like,
leave it alone, please.
Is this a sequel to the original, or is it the one that...
A sequel to Ghostbusters 2, essentially, I think. A sequel to the original sequel.
All of us is the wee guy for Stranger Things is in it.
Bill Murray's in it.
What, the wee curly haired boy?
Let me double check. I'm not entirely sure.
Boy with the teeth.
The boy with the teeth.
Or no teeth, as it really should be.
I think it's a little boy that was in It as well.
Oh, he's shite.
Who's that then?
The main one out of Stranger Things.
Yeah, his name is Finn Wolfhard.
The main wee guy.
Just look at some of the cast. You have got Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Ernie Hudson. They're going to be in the movie as well, so they have got the originals in there. So hopefully it's quite good. But anyway, let's talk about Hocus Pocus. We'll start off with the family-friendly one. A curious youngster moves to Salem, where he struggles to fit in before awakening a trio of diabolical witches that were executed in the 17th century. IMDb's got it scoring at 6.9, and it came out in 1993. Who wants to go first to take us away with Hocus Pocus?
You watched it today, Shaun, didn't you? You should go, I think.
Watched that. As I was saying to Kyle, I put it in the group chat as well. I had the idea we were babysitting today, and Laurie's niece really likes Hocus Pocus, so I thought I'll save that for the Monday when she's over, and we'll watch it. But she just liked to play with her toys and all that, so I never really got the best viewing. But I'd seen it before when I was a child. Me and my mum used to watch it, and this is obviously the first time that I've seen it, probably since I was, I don't know, 5, 6, whatever. I thought it was total shit. It started off quite kind of like a Halloween film and all that, and then it just kind of got really, really daft and stuff. And I thought the acting was atrocious. The Bette Midler, just totally insufferable. I can't remember the character's name, but I thought it was just really, really way over the top. And I know that it's like a kind of kids film, Disney film and stuff like that, so it's going to be like that. But I just found it like a really, really hard watch. I don't know if that is because obviously like there was a lot of noise in the living room with the wee one throwing about toys and what play with Barbie dolls, all that stuff. But it's totally not what I remember it to be. I actually kind of thought that it would have kind of brought back some memories and stuff like that. But nah, I'm really, really disappointed that this beat Ghostbusters. I would have much preferred Ghostbusters. Much preferred that. I just found it really, really over the. It was very, very Disney. Like after the first kind of half hour, it just went like a totally different direction from what I thought it was going to take, and it was just very, very cheesy. And like, see the bit where they're in, it was like in the club, the Halloween party bit, and then they get up and they start singing and stuff.
That was class.
Nah, I really, really, really didn't like it, and I just obviously you hear my thoughts on Hereditary as well and stuff. I'm not kind of spoiling him, but I just it was a big letdown that for me, because I thought I had fond memories of it, but I actually couldn't remember any at all. Like nothing was brought back to me when I was watching it. Nothing, which kind of for me tells its own story.
Well, I'm going to come in and be very, very opposite to you, Shaun. I really enjoyed it. I think like taking it for what it is a light-hearted movie made in the early 90s that's aimed at kids. There's little bits with the acting that I thought were brilliant. So see when the three sisters would walk in a straight line together and they did that stupid wee left to right walk. To me that was class. Like it was all part of the acting. It was a bit entertaining. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek. I'm also opposite. I quite like Bette Midler in this. I thought she was quite funny.
Aye. My first note that I've written down is Bette Midler is class. Like, I think she's the best thing in this. Oh, aye.
Well, it's funny because I would say that Mary's character, so is it Kathy Najimy, who plays her, her facial reactions to everything that goes on throughout this movie makes her really, really funny. And Sarah Jessica Parker's character, like, I always forgot that it was her in this role because you only associate her with one programme and it's hard to think of her in anything else. But again, she plays a part of this really, really well. I don't know. I think it's quite funny. For me, the best person in the whole film though is the wee girl, wee Danny, Flora Birch's character. She blows the boy out of the water in terms of the acting ability. I added acting ability in there, boys. Behave yourselves. Because I think, if anything, when it comes throughout this movie, he's probably the worst part of it. He's not very good. But, so, wee Danny's great. She's really, really funny. She steals the limelight when she's on the screen as well. You're more concentrated on what's going on with her. The storyline's like a very basic storyline. Like it's a paint by numbers in terms of like a Disney film and the way it comes through, but it's enjoyable. Like I didn't really find parts of this that aren't enjoyable. Like see, other scenes that stood out for me is like when they're getting on the bus and they've no fucking idea what's going on, and they're blown away by it, and you forget like it's obviously it's a whole new technology world and stuff at that point for them.
Years after and stuff. So
sorry.
It's 300 years ago in the film that I've seen the last time they've ever seen. So like,
well, that's it. But like, just that scene itself, like that for me was really funny. I found myself totally chuckling at loads of bits of this. I remember when I was sitting watching, I was watching it with Sarah, and she was like preparing for the one scene that she remembered total scarred her from her childhood is when I can't remember the guy's name. Was it Bill? The guy that came out and he got his head chopped off and stuff. When his fingers get run over when he's on when he's in the manhole as well. That was quite freaky as well. When I was reading some of the research behind this, because obviously it's a PG and he gets his fingers cut off and he gets his head chopped off and all these things happen in it. A lot of that had to be taken out, especially across the UK. They had to like really dumb all that down and cut away from it and take parts of the film out because it was quite controversial at the time. And it was also controversial at the time for consistently talking about a virgin.
Oh man, that's what I've got written down as my main talking point. Like, I just felt like the concentration on the fact that this wee boy had never shagged anybody was weird, man. Like, all the way through it, I mention it all the time. It's like, yes, like he's a virgin. Like, it was just weird, man.
It was creepy that his sister kept saying it as well.
Yeah. Like, his 8-year-old sister's like, and he's a virgin. It's like fucking a bit weird, like.
Because what age is it? What, 13 or something? 13, 14 or something like that he's probably supposed to be in the film.
Well, judging by the girl in his class, she can't be supposed to be 13. Surely they've got to be 17 or something.
I'd had a look that I can't remember what age they're supposed to be in the film, but I had a look at both the ages of the two, like the Max and Alison, and both of them the same age. But in the film, I don't know if you split the same. She looks so much older than him.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Like they didn't. It was as if they were. He was like fat, like maybe at least 3 or 4 years different age wise. I thought, like just appearance wise, and one couldn't act, and one could act.
So I've got it here. Max and Danny. Danny was to be a 10-year-old little girl, and Max was to be 14. That does make it so much creepier.
No matter what state you're in, anyway.
Disgusting.
It's weird, man. Like, this 14-year-old boy is a virgin.
Kids' films are just so much different. Like, they're so different now. Like, even like TV programs and stuff. It's actually wild to think that was a film that its target audience were, I don't know, under the age of 12 or whatever. I don't know. Probably younger than that. That's so bizarre.
Well, there you go. So it was a really strange theme to be all the way through it, and for me, like when I first was watching it, and I'm like doing my usual, try to take plot holes and try to figure out what I can shit all over for it. And one of the bits that I had like noted down that I was going to look at and bring up was the fact that the cat hadn't spoke to anybody in 300 years beforehand.
Yeah,
the talking cat.
Such a shit voice as well, by the way. Like that was I have no idea who the voice actor is, but it just didn't fit for me at all. I just get thinking like.
I will explain it all in the trivia I have found, so I can add some credence to those thoughts you're having, Shaun.
Good, go for it.
And right, now, so Hunter, jump it now.
The cat was the same cat that was used in Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
I thought that.
And
was that it?
What I found, well, no, I do have more. So the voice actor for the cat was a guy called 2 seconds, I've got it here. Jason Marsden, and he was not the guy who was the Binks in real life. The guy playing Binks in real life, Sean Murray, moved to Australia as a youngster and developed an Australian accent. So they brought in this other boy because he could basically, the old Americans speak a lot more, so that's how it sounds completely off.
Aye, because it doesn't sound like the same guy at all, which that makes more sense now.
Mm-hmm. Was it James Marsden? Is he not Cyclops X-Men?
Oh, sorry, no, Jason Marsden.
Jason Marsden. Oh. Ah, right, okay. I was like, what the fuck?
Does James Marsden know somebody who fucking Red Dead Redemption? That's John Marsden. Sorry.
Listen, this is the Marsden show.
Yeah.
Oh well, James Marsden was also in Spirited Away, another film that was reviewed and highly recommended by Shaun. But no, like I say, there's obviously that was like a really weird plot hole for me when I was watching it, because I'm like, this cat that can talk, that's hanging around this house and protecting people from coming to it, like, could it not have just like spoke up and said, by the way guys, didn't like that flame? Or was it not able to talk before the flame was lit?
Well, that's what I discovered as well. Is apparently he could only speak once the black flame had been lit.
So that makes sense.
So that's how he could come about meowing at folk for 300 years until somebody lit that candle.
This is the same cat that's just hung around this house forever.
Oh no!
I mean,
I can quite believe this.
The witch had died. You think it would be like he would then go back to his former self, but no, the cat dies and he's just his spirit is out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, cats are evil little shits, eh? So you would imagine that they would hang around houses forever, eh, Daniel?
I won't hear about that. I'm going to get my cat on screen at some point before the end of the stream tonight, just to get some extra.
Well, Daniel, you bring us
some extra love.
You're the cat man. You bring us your thoughts on this movie and the cat itself as well.
I did agree with the cat thing being a bit stupid because, like, hanging about that house for 300 years, you would just give up, wouldn't you? If you're a cat, and you can go wherever the fuck you want. Just like every year, nothing happens. You're just going, what are you going to do? Do you know what I mean? And the strange thing for me is, obviously, that was sort of set up like a bit of a museum or something, like the way it was set up. No security on Halloween night, and like
just the cat was the bouncer basically.
Aye,
Because
and it's,
every adult in the fucking town is out partying until 9 o'clock in the morning by the looks of it.
aye, and like it seemed fine that like all these kids, like 8-year-old wee Danny, and obviously even the kids, the other boys only meant to be 14. Like all the mum and dads out till 5 in the morning getting smashed. Like, and the two of them turned up at the party, and this is before they were getting like mind consoles and all that. And they just didn't give a fuck. Like
No.
the kids turned up at this big party with all this booze and partying and all that sort of stuff, and they never really cared. But I'm maybe in between Kyle and Shaun. I remember liking this as a kid, and it maybe wasn't quite as fun as I expected it to be. It was a bit. I struggled with it at times. It kind of lost its way a wee bit. Like, see the two bullies, those two cunts, man.
Oh, man.
Like. Every single bully in every 90s movie were like these two guys. Like, and in reality, the guy with the long hair and the leather jacket and that at school was the cunt getting bullied usually. It's very rarely is he the guy, especially a guy with ice fucking in the back of his hair, he'd be getting fucking bullied.
And he was at least 30 years older than everybody else there.
Oh, like the fact, and that's the thing, he's supposed to be a similar age to these kids, and like, aye, that bit lost me completely. And anytime they came back on screen, it didn't add to anything. They could have just taken that whole bit out of it. It made no difference, apart from made him look like a bit of a wee dick. The main guy, it made him look like a bit of a wee pussy and a bit of a shite bag early on, but that was about it.
It's funny, sorry to jump in, just what you said about
go.
Because when it starts off, right, and then he's a new boy in this town, and then the hot girl for the class makes a comment, and then he's sliding his phone number across there in front of everybody. You think, this boy's got something about him, like a bit of arrogance and that, and then he gets confronted with the two bullies, and he turns into this little wet wipe that you've just mentioned there. But it's funny how you can go for that confident to being that shite scared for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Aye, his character was really inconsistent, and it didn't seem plausible that him and that girl would ever be getting together. Like, the one thing I like about 90s films like this, like, it's an hour and a half. They were never really going much more than an hour and a half back then, right? So you got the full background to everything that happened 300 years ago. You got introduced to all the characters and everything about them within the first 20 minutes, and then it's just like, here's all the shit that's happening. I do kind of wish more films were like that, because see, if this came out now, you would get an hour's worth of like background and stuff before the witches even appeared. And I like the fact that it just went like, there was witches 300 years ago, they're dead, now they're back, stuff's happening. I did quite like how it just sort of jumped into it. The one, obviously you were saying about like plot holes and stuff, and we do always bring up shit like this. And you've mentioned they got on the bus and they were like, oh, a bus, like, this is confusing. And then they turn up at a nightclub and they instantly know what a microphone is, and they know the words to put a spell on you. Like, it's fucking no consistency. I feel like it would have been funny if there was more bits of them they acted to things they'd never seen before.
Yeah.
But everything seemed fine until they got to the fact that they saw a bus. That bus was the only thing that amazed them. Like, this big bus was weird, man. But again, with the sort of, it's obviously aimed at kids. The bus driver was a sleazy pervert. And then they went into that old man's house. Like, I totally forgot this bit ever happened in the film, but the three witches go into that old man's house who's dressed as a devil, and like he thinks he's having a weird sex party, and the wife comes down and catches him. Like, I don't know, there was no need for that either. It was just like a weirdly added bit into the
But
film.
see,
that was
their
just a
whole
wee bit.
interaction outside of that house I thought was class, because all these kids are running about and kids are meant to be scared of them, but the kids are all dressed up and running about, and they were like flabbergasted with what was going on at that point. I thought that was quite good, the fact that it related back to what they were known for, stealing kids for their youth.
Yeah, I suppose there is that bit. One embarrassing thing before this, like, I didn't know that Thora Birch was in it. Now, later on in Thora Birch's career, she was one of like my early crushes as a teenager, like in the whole and movies like that. So the actors were coming up at the start, and I said to Ella, I was like, "Oh, I had a crush on Thora Birch when I was young." Right? And she's like, "Which one is she?" I was waiting for it to come on screen, and I didn't realise she was fucking like 8 years old in this. I was like, I'm like, oh fuck, man. But no, I do quite like it, but I also think it's a bit stupid. It's no aged well, has it? Like most of these sort of 90s movies.
I think it has aged pretty well when I saw it, to be fair. I didn't think it seemed that outdated. I think it was more just because it was, you just took it as it was. You just thought it was funny, and it wasn't to be taken too serious. I disagree with that really a wee bit.
No, good. That's what we're here for. Let's fucking argue. Like we've been too much in agreement the last few weeks. Like everyone liked Goodfellas. We all hated 28 Days Later. I hope we get different scores on this. But
no, I
think
just to jump in and support Burns in that. Like I said, as much as it's not a masterpiece, but I enjoyed it for what it was the whole way through it. And we'll come on to scores in a wee while, but I mean, I'm going to score us for my experience of watching it. Like, it was class. I was happy. I chuckled. Shaun's face is spitting at him there.
Well, I enjoyed it to a similar level, but like it was like, I don't know, eating McDonald's. Like you kind of felt empty afterwards. It was all right. It was kind of fun, but then afterwards I was like, oh, that was kind of a waste of an hour and a half of my life. But I had no.
McDonald's an hour and a half.
How much fucking food do you get him? Burnsy, go and jump straight in there and fight back to Daniel.
Aye.
So I don't know if I have watched this before or not. I don't remember it, but I'd obviously heard of it. So whether I did watch it when I was younger or not, I don't really know. As both you sort of touched on already, is I thought Bette Midler and Sarah Jessica Parker. I thought Sarah Jessica Parker was good in terms of just being a bit ditzy and silly kind of thing. Like she wasn't obviously a great actor, but it was more just in the background when the other witches were like trying to like decide things. She's just dancing about, prancing about in the background and stuff.
She had her assets, didn't she?
Aye.
Her assets were on show for most of the film, to be fair.
And they certainly weren't her face.
Sorry, Burnsy, to interrupt you there, but that was
it. She's got a witch's nose, Sarah Jessica Parker, to be fair.
And chin, to be fair.
Anyway, leave her alone.
And Daniel's crush, she was tremendous. I thought throughout it as well. Like I thought she was probably the star really out of everyone. So I touched on it before. That I thought like the person that played Max, I thought he was the big letdown of it. He just, I don't know what it was. Like you sort of said, he seemed like really like confident at the start. Then he was like really like a wet wipe, as you sort of said, and I don't think it just didn't really feel right whenever he was trying to obviously get even when he was trying to get his sister away. The only time I actually felt sympathy for him for what was going on was when he took that final potion, really. Whereas before that point, I was kind of hoping that the witches would actually steal him away and just like keep him, and then everybody else would be all right. I thought with the start as well is that when Thackeray is the beginning of it is when Sean Murray plays him to start with. I was kind of like, oh my god, I'm going to hate this, because like even for the first, I can't remember what the words he was saying, but he kept on saying, I don't know if he just kept on shouting on his little sister's name Emily, or what he was doing was definitely something he did. I think it was just his voice was going through me, and when I saw that obviously the main actor was going to be somebody else, I was like, oh, that's all right then. But then I say Max was the big letdown of the film. I thought, but I thought it was enjoyable throughout. It wasn't like, it was obviously quite short, as you said. There wasn't like, the plot holes didn't really impact me because although obviously they explained it was 300 years ago, like the bus thing and going into when they were meeting the parents and on the stage and that, I just took it as it was, because I thought, well, it's obviously aimed at kids. You're not gonna explain everything and things like that. You're just gonna go with the flow basically, and just it was fun. I thought there was a lot of like funny moments. The ending, it wasn't. I don't know what I wanted the ending to be, because also it is a Disney movie, so I maybe wanted a wee bit of swerve or something. Maybe with one of them dying off or something. Whether it would have been like Max.
Blood.
Max, Danny, or Alison. Like if something had happened to maybe them, instead of just basically living happily ever after. But
missing a bit of genocide.
But Burnsy's never watched a Disney film before in his life.
I guess that's what you probably get with Disney films, though. So, but no, it was really enjoyable. I thought it was a lot better than what I expected, because before I sort of watched it, I thought it could be something that you kind of, because it is aimed at obviously people a lot younger than us, it may have been something you'd been like, so, which we had with obviously some previous Disney movies that was rated. But no, I think it ages pretty well too. It's not as if there's any. I think with actual scenes where it's not as if there's anything that's. Like they obviously have some scenes in the school and things like that. It's not as if a school's going to be that massively different. Or with the houses, it wasn't. The houses were pretty modern, so it wasn't as if they were going to. They were never sort of going too far away from things that could change massively in even 20 years' time. So. I enjoyed it. I think I'm definitely more on Kel's side than Shaun's for sure. So it's not something I go back to watch again, though. It's kind of a one and done, I think.
A one and done. This is one of those classical films that when Halloween hits around and it's on the telly, you'll sit and watch it between kind of 7 till 9 o'clock till a decent horror film comes on it like later on that night. It's a good dinner movie. Is probably the best way to describe it in my thoughts. Like. You didn't have to give too much attention to it. You can get your phone out and check your football results with no hassle, and you'll still understand what's going on in it. But
sorry, one more thing is I don't know if any of you, but see when Sarah Jessica Parker's in the bed when Max goes in and thinks it's Danny. I absolutely shat myself at that point because I wasn't expecting that. See, I was like, what? Whereas that, I think because obviously the rest, there wasn't any sort of shocks at any stage, or I don't know if I'd imagine maybe as obviously younger people would have got frightened at maybe other points, but I did absolutely shit myself at that point. I just didn't see that coming at all, and I think there was maybe a bit of music when it happened as well, which whatever happened in that particular part I can't exactly remember, but that was done really well too, because I did get a massive fright.
Yeah, no, fair play. And just as I'm listening as you guys are going through, I keep thinking like, what am I going to name the podcast for this week? And so far, the front runner is winning. Is it Daniel crushes 11-year-old Flora Birch?
No, we can't do that.
We chatted at the door and all that.
Aye, let's move on and see what Hunter thinks. Before there was a different type of Hunter at my door.
Right, now, there's a little tidbit of trivia to set you off, and I'm just wondering if the person who was originally offered the role of Max had been cast, would Shaun have liked this movie even more? Can you guess who it was?
Leo DiCaprio.
Correct.
Wow. What age would he have been at that time? Like 14, 15, I suppose 14, 15, I'd imagine.
Aye.
I will find
No,
out.
that because when did Titanic come out? When was that? Like 96 or something?
97, so 4 years
96.
after this.
Well, I think it would have definitely made a better film anyway.
Aye.
Yeah. But he actually turned it down so he could go film What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
One of the best movies ever. I hope we get to watch that on the stream. I love it.
Never seen it.
DiCaprio was amazing in it.
Leo would have been 19 at this point, guys.
But he looked about 12. He looked like a child until he was 30.
He looked like a 14-year-old person.
But similar to the majority of yours, I just took this for what it was at face value. It's a family-friendly Halloween film, and when you take that into consideration, you let yourself go. You stop looking for plot holes. They're not there to be picked at. We're not here to critique it. We're here to score on how we enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it. I watched it straight after Hereditary last night, and I think I definitely, not giving too much away, but I made the better decision to do put this on last. There's also another little fact of trivia. It was the first Disney film that used digital visual effects.
There we go.
You're full of the status this week in the fucking trivia, Hunter.
That's his job.
Batman Hunter. And the scene with the guy who played the Satan, his wife was just sitting watching telly, getting her hair ready. I presume forgot to this period it was still ongoing for their 12 hours. But they were actually played by a brother and sister. They weren't actually a husband, it was brother and sister that played the husband and wife.
Well, it made sense how well they were arguing with each other then, eh?
He was creepy though, he just seemed like a creepy fucking pervert, eh? Like, oh, this young lassie, get in the house. Come in the house, come on.
Oh, yeah.
The wife's in bed.
The wife's in bed, but they're worshipping him. He's literally just gone along with it. He's like, I'm living a fantasy right now. What the fuck? Don't lie, boys. You would all do the exact same.
Sanderson sisters for the last 300 years.
Well, Hunter, what was your thoughts on it though, mate? Talk us through a little bit more about what you thought.
I mean, I enjoyed the camaraderie between the three witches. I thought they were class. I mean, there's no taking the great relationship between them. I mean, that's it. It's just although it's not the perfect film, it's far from being a great film. But for what it is, it's hard to fault it for what it delivered. It's as you said, it's a Disney film, start to finish. There's never going to be that wild curveball. It's never going to go dark or deep in places. It's family friendly, honest fun, and I enjoyed it.
Well, there we go. So 4 people so far have enjoyed themselves for a little bit, and the miserable fuck in the corners, they not enjoyed it. I think it was the fact that you were having to babysit at the time, Shaun, just hating happiness and children and all that kind of jazz.
I was more interested in playing with her Barbies than I was watching this.
Right, there's a podcast night line so far. Playing with Barbies. You'll get the shop at your door. Well, Hunter, do you have any more trivia at all that you wanted to bring up? Are you maxed out there?
One more final fact I have is that on the 20th anniversary, so it'll be 8 years ago now, that in the final scene where the moths flying away, they were actual real moths, they were not CGI'd in. That is the final bit of trivia.
Sitting with moths in his mouth to do a scene. Oh, no.
Disgusting.
That's disgusting. Well, I've got one bit of trivia that you'll be buzzing to know, and Shaun will be delighted to know, is Hocus Pocus 2 is returning to our screens next year.
Yeah. There's been rumours about that for at least 10 years. I've been seeing that come up every year that they were going to make it, and then now they're finally doing it, I think.
That's it, and it's with the 3 same sisters, eh?
Was it?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Class.
I mean, at least Sarah Jessica Parker now looks like a corpse version of the one you got to see in this one, so that'll work out all right.
I mean, how old is Bette Midler as well? Because again,
she must be 70s now.
She is.
I actually thought she was dead. I didn't even know she was still alive. I thought Bette Midler was dead.
There you go. Well, I'll just load this up just now. It'll give me her.
I think she's bang on something. I'm sure I'd look earlier.
Well, you're 5 years out. She's 75.
Oh. I knew it was a kind of half round number.
Bang on. 5 years out. Oh, Daniel, we did put these up on Instagram for Instagram to get our thoughts on it. They picked it. What was their thoughts?
Yeah, they picked it. I think we got a big mixture here of the people who voted for Ghostbusters that were pissed off and the people who loved this. So I got a few 5s, but I also got like a 0 and a 1 and a couple of 3s and stuff. Ended up as a 3.03 averaged over all the voting, over all the scoring, on Instagram.
There you go. It's not like people to jump on the internet and be bitter, is it?
No, eh?
Well, listen, I'm going to jump in with a very similar score, and I'm going to give it a 3.25. Really enjoyed it. Shaun, you maintain the good.
A 0.75 for me.
Fucking Christ. A 0.75.
Yep.
I mean, at least it's not going to be me getting hate mail on Instagram for a change this week.
If anybody messages me hate on Instagram for this, they need to grow up.
Put him centre with a big face there.
Yeah, think it up yourself.
Just for context, Shaun scored this below Detective Pikachu.
I mean, they're similar sort of. I can see why. I can see why that. Aye.
That's another one I fucking hated. That was shite.
You did hate that as well. Aye.
You've made it just slightly above The Last Airbender, if it makes you feel better.
That was another shite film. You know?
That's fucking
We just get
horrific.
a fucking good film to watch at one point because the standard in the past few weeks has been abysmal.
Well, Shaun, I tell
No,
you,
we've had a new #1 movie, and we've had a Train Spot in top 5.
I mean, again, that doesn't like substitute the shower of shite that we've had to watch recently. Like,
Nah, you've got to take the shite with the sugar with the shite. Do you know what I mean? You've got to take it.
well, Shaun, you've got a social media platform. Voice your feelings to the fans.
I can't be arsed. I'm just turning up on Monday.
They're no worth his time.
Oh God, well,
Tell you,
Bunsey,
until we start getting paid.
let's raise the mood a little bit better then. Give us your score.
So did you say me? I didn't hear what you said there. Was it me?
That's you.
Yeah.
I didn't hear your name. I'm going to give it a 3.5. I thought it was very good.
3.5. I know we all started the movie club, and Bunsey was the main person we wanted to get into this, but Bunsey be loving a hocus pocus film, eh? This is mad. In 2021. Hunter.
Usually I'm similar to Shaun though, too. I'm usually similar thoughts to you in a lot of films, but maybe I'm just a better person.
I'm a crap bastard. So.
I was going to say you're a bit happier, Burnsy.
Hunter.
I'm going to lower the scoring slightly. As I said, overall I enjoyed it. Somewhat of what Bum just said, that is a one and done. I doubt I'll ever return to it, so it's a 2 for me.
A 2. And the other half of Dunter?
I'm kind of similar. I didn't hate it like Shaun, but I didn't love it either. It was kind of good fun. I gave it a 2.5. Down the middle.
A 2.5. So Bunsey, get the maths done and let us know what the overall score is.
That's a 2.4 overall.
2.4 overall. So this puts this movie joint 47th with Fugitive and Up.
It's definitely better.
It's a good place for that, I think. It's in that sort of middle of the road.
Definitely better than Up.
Yeah.
Wreck-It Ralph was just above it, Shaun. Where would Wreck-It Ralph 2 be on our list?
Number 1. Greatest film I've ever seen. I'm moving faster.
It sums you up though. Like, a movie that you've watched a majority of, then realised you were wrong, so you've turned it off. No finishing it. Fuck it.
I had no time. To get these ones done. I can't be. I don't watch any other films now apart from the ones we watch. This has destroyed my life with my TV life. It's now just I watch 2 films a week and it's this. I can't enjoy myself outside this. The work and time I'm putting in, it's just crazy.
Know,
how's Twitter coming along, Shaun?
I was just going there.
Good eye. Well,
He's not the time.
No, he's got these 2 movies every week, so too
many films.
Oh dear God. Well, guys, that brings us in at a 2.4 for Hocus Pocus. Before we move on to the next movie, though, just a quick reminder about the socials. Daniel is sporadically running Instagram now. He's kind of passed it up the chain to me for the last week. He's let you all down. You'll see that the standard and the quality has lowered dramatically since I've started posting on it.
Yeah, I'll be back on it next week, man.
But the socials are just below on the screen at the moment. So you've got YouTube there, you've got Twitch, you're obviously on just now, you've got Instagram, and you've got Twitter that is just a wasteland at the moment when Shaun's looking after that. So we are also, like I said at the start of the stream, we are still promoting our podcast, Apple Podcast for The Morons Reviewing Movies. Have to make sure you put the it's important, or you won't find us. Amazon Music as well, and hopefully we can get ourselves up to 50 downloads for our next week. That would be ideal. This of course will also be on YouTube, hopefully tomorrow if I get around to it. I'm as good as Shaun when it comes to Twitter, when it comes to YouTube. But yeah, lots of places for seeing it and to leave your comments as well, okay? Damage Danny, welcome into the chat as well. First time viewer, thank you very much for being here. Or first time chat, it says here, so I thought it said first time viewer. We are just going to now jump on and talk about Hereditary. Was that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been working, honestly.
Better than usual.
Hereditary. I'll move on from that. I will move on from that swiftly. So, Hereditary was out in 2018. 2 hours and 7 minutes, so a long movie for Shaun. And it is a grieving family is haunted by tragic and disturbing occurrences. Shaun, as our resident horror expert, take us away with your thoughts.
Now that we can talk about this, this is probably one of the poorest weeks that we've had, like for me anyway, in terms of enjoying the films. As has been kind of spoken about before, the horror films, this is exactly the kind of thing that should terrify me, but I didn't. I was able to watch this myself for the last hour, and that tells its own story. I just didn't really find it that scary. I can't remember who it was, but one of these, I'm sure it was one of you guys that had said that this is apparently absolutely terrifying. So I had set myself up to be absolutely shitting myself. But and it kind of started off that way, like with the wee lassie. She's a funny looking wee lassie. She looks about 40, but she's no, obviously she's a wee lassie.
I think she's got a disease.
Yeah, Kevin Bridges and Lewis Capaldi's Rothschild.
Nice. But I thought it started quite promising, and it was quite creepy, and you didn't really know. I didn't really know what direction it was going to take. I just thought it would be your typical kind of poltergeist, horror, supernatural, fucking ghost thing. Obviously, it kind of turned out there was elements of that, but it was a little bit kind of different. Like when she got beheaded, like I thought that was. I did not expect that at all, and it was quite disgusting. But I thought that like there's no way that she could be dead, because I thought she was like the main star of this film, and she was going to be in it the whole way through, and obviously it was more focused around her brother and her mum and stuff like that. There was wee moments and stuff where it was quite creepy, like just again, this is in so many films though, where you've got just like a person just standing at a doorway. In this instance, they've got their dick out. And that's probably what separates this from other horror films. But it just didn't really scare me at all. And I found the storyline quite kind of confusing as well. Like when the wee seance woman came into it, and then because I didn't even actually realise where the fuck she come from, and then obviously they're doing the behind about her son, and then it transpired she was in pictures with her mum with the necklace and the wee symbol and stuff like that. I thought it was far too confusing for me anyway, in my wee pea brain, for it to be like a horror film. A horror film for me is just, it's a simple storyline the whole way through, it's easy to follow, and you get scared by it. I thought that this tried too hard to be like a level above that, and like an intellectual horror film that's for smart people, no stupid cunts like me. But I genuinely didn't find it scary at all. The best bit was her getting beheaded. I thought that was really, really good. And that, I just didn't get it.
Daniel, when you come in here, you're the expert in this.
Even the ending up in the treehouse. You're going to explain to me. I just don't understand it.
Well, which part of the end did you not understand? Sorry.
They're all like all these. Where did all these people come from? I don't know who they are, and they're all bowing down. And
the old lady vaginas that were all kicking about at the time.
Aye.
That was weird, loads of old. Aye. But I would definitely agree. This is like what I would call like an artsy horror film.
Aye.
Gabriel Byrne's cast in it, and Toni Collette's in it, and
I hate her, by the way.
Oh, me! I'm glad you said that. Like, my number one thing is she overacts the fuck out of this whole movie. Like, and it, to me, I actually really like the way it's set. I like the idea. I like a lot of the stuff they do in it. I like the wee noise, like it.
Aye, that was quite scary.
Brilliant. But then she's so unbelievable. Like, there's nothing about the way she acts that seems like a real person. And then Gabriel Byrne is the complete opposite. He's like completely underacting. Like, he just seems like a random guy that pulled off the street that's just wandering about the movie set. Like, he barely speaks, and like he doesn't seem to know what's going on. And
it's like husband.
Yeah, the husband, yeah.
No, I'm saying it doesn't seem to act like her husband though.
No, it's just like
absolutely hates her.
you can tell he hates her. It's just like he's just a guy that's there. It doesn't seem like he likes his son. Him and his son get on well, and they both sort of have wee nods and winks that they both obviously hate them all. Like that's the way it sort of seems to me. That it becomes like a family drama. Her just sort of losing the plot a wee bit, but I do like this. I do think it suffers from what 90% of modern horror suffer from, is that it's good until they reveal what's actually happening. And once you know what's actually happening, it starts to become a bit shit. Like witches and sacrifices and all this sort of stuff. And obviously the little girl, I'm not sure what's actually wrong with her. She's like, that's what her actual face in real life looks like. It's no prosthetics or that.
I thought it was fake. I actually feel absolutely horrible now. Can we cut that bit out, please?
I've just updated the podcast name to Shaun Hates Millie Shapiro.
Yeah, Millie Shapiro's face is horrible. That's
what related to Ben Shapiro.
I have no idea.
I mean,
then, if that is the case.
I know. I wish his face looked like hers. That'd be a better world, eh? If he was fucking deformed. No, but I agree with Shaun. See, once you get the witches and the background and look at the photos and all this sort of stuff, that's where it kind of loses it for me. The best bit is definitely, like you said, when her heat comes off. I actually really like the build up to that. See, when they go to the party and like she's kind of lost and not quite knowing what to do, and all he cares about is getting his end away or smoking some weed. That bit was good for me, and obviously the peanut bit, they sort of set up to the peanut bit because they let you know that she's got an EpiPen and all this sort of stuff. And the first time I watched this, I never saw the beheading thing coming at all. Like I thought maybe she's going to die, or maybe he's going to feel guilty about the fact he was there for her. But the fact that her head came fucking clean off, and then I love the fact that it takes about maybe 2 or 3 minutes for him to like he sits and like composes himself, and like you're wondering what he's going to do. I assumed he was going to get out and like get the head or like phone somebody, but he just drives all the way home and like goes straight in the house. Like, and I thought that was a really good portrayal of what shock, like how you might actually be if that happened. It seemed quite cool. But
it does seem to jump in here. It for me, I was really confused, like because obviously the founder beheaded in bed, and it doesn't really get talked about. Like, how did she get in bed?
Really,
who put her there? Like,
was she in the bed after?
No, she was in the car.
She was in the car. You heard her open the car. Like, the son was lying in his bed, and the mom was outside. But then it then cut to the more like that over the top grieving the next day, where she's like, "I just want to die" and whatever else.
So I've missed the point where that's transferred into another day then, because where I've clocked, because I'm really, because it was quite a dark film to watch, and I'm trying to watch it with a bit of mood lighting and stuff like that. And I only watched it today during the day as well, so it's quite dark, and then I couldn't really keep up with what was going on at that point, because I'm still really confused, because she's been beheaded, and I'm very similar to Shaun. I thought this was all about her. So when she's been beheaded half an hour into it, I'm like, where does this go for here? And then he's lying in bed and the mum's crying, and then I see her in the room, and I'm like, has that wee boy lifted her to her bed without a head? Like, but there's no interaction about you did this. And later, I know she says later on, like, you need to take some accountability. But it's, I don't know, I feel like there's a big chunk missing there. Like, could have been a bit more investigated or a bit more understanding of him dealing with a consequence of it.
Yeah.
It did seem to be, like, it leaves a lot up to your own interpretation, I think. So, like, was it somehow set up that he was sort of cursed that she was going to die at his sort of hands, and it was going to break up the family and allow them to be infiltrated to get back this fucking grand plan that the granny had, or the dead gran, that was obviously about resurrecting whatever chosen one for this stupid cult. And again, this is a game where it loses it for me. I think this is maybe 45 minutes to an hour of a really good film, followed by an hour of a poor film that sort of dies a death as it goes on. I kind of wish that something else had won, to be honest. Like, I was quite disappointed when this. I knew nobody here would like it. I'm going to go carry on, and I'm going to assume that Kyle and Burnsy and Hunter also don't like this, and I'll probably give it the highest score, and I don't even particularly like it. But I think there's a lot of good ideas in it. It's not played out very well. And the biggest issue for me is the contrast between Toni Collette and Gabriel Byrne and the whole family relationship. I never really felt invested in them at all. And once the little girl dies, she's the best bit about the film, and the film sort of dies with her essentially.
I couldn't help but keep looking at the boy and thinking, why are you sweating all the time? Why are you constantly sweating? He was like the wettest person you've ever seen in your life, sitting in school, total dripping in that. I know you're absolutely spot on. I did not enjoy it. But I think I didn't enjoy it because I had myself set up to be absolutely petrified of this. I've been told by so many people that it's such a scary film, and people have told that I'm going to watch it this week and review it, and they're like, "Oh fucking hell! Like you'll not get through that all in a 1 hour. Like it's really scary." And I'm like, "Yous have all just seen the adverts, because the adverts give you everything for this." Like you say, it builds up for about an hour to what could be a really terrifying paranormal experience that happens within their house, that takes over the mum, kills his son, kills the dad, film ends. It'd been 10 times better than going down the route with the granny being a psychopath and being part of a cult, and then all these naked people start appearing randomly, and then there's a treehouse that I didn't really quite grasp what was going on, and then there's this mad mischief god that they're all trying to get back, but that had like minutes towards that in the storyline. Like, why not at the start of this film, where they talk about the disconnect between Toni Collette and her mum in the film, talk about how she was not part of a cult, but she was like she was wanting to chase down this god, or she was researching, because surely she's got some form of understanding, because I'm assuming as well that the son that got killed was because she's tried to put this demon inside him, and she's essentially put him towards suicide. And I feel like there could have been a bit more of a background to that, so that the seed was planted there for later on, because she just opened a box and she was like, "Oh, that was the same pillowcase, and that means that you must know each other." And holy shit, the first album that I opened, you're in it with my mum.
And every picture.
And I must have packed these. And if my mum's just died and I'm packing her stuff, we nostalgia look through some books or something like that. No, I don't know. It was fully little like issues is probably the best way to describe it. And having the wee lassie die so early, who suffers from a disease called cranial dystosis, Shaun, that she got at birth. I hope you feel really, really horrible.
I know. I hope you feel fucking proud of yourself.
Alright.
Yeah, I mean, she was the creepiest lassie I've seen in one of these films. Gear an extra half an hour on top of what happens. Let her float around cutting mere things' heads off and stitching them onto things and stuff, because that was freaky just watching her. And you knew that everybody else was kind of half scared of her. The fact that the mum sent her to a party with her older brother, like that just wouldn't happen. Like,
no,
I'd imagine that I'm a similar age gap between what this boy being his little sister with my little sister, and I wouldn't have walked to the shop with my wee sister back when I was that age. Never mind taking her to somebody that could party with me.
So he didn't put up a fight with it at all. It was kind of like that was one of the things I wrote down. It was kind of like, "Oh, you're taking your sister," and he wasn't like, "No, I'm not." It was kind of like, "Well, does she want to go?" She's like, "Aye." And he was like, "Alright, I'm taking her." Whereas if like, say you were going with your sister, you wouldn't be like, "Alright," you would put up a fight for it and say, "No, I'm not going." It was just that was just completely bizarre, like why that even started happening. Obviously, it leads to her getting beheaded, but like there's even just that was one of the things that I wrote down for the very start. Like the first, I'll give you about a second. So the first hour that I thought was really good, but there was just like that pothole just really annoyed me at the very start, because that's just stupid. So on you go.
Oh, listen, feel free. No, with it, like when I was the Gabriel Burns was on the screen, I just kept thinking of Usual Suspects. I'm like, can I not just switch Usual Suspects on and watch this now instead? I'd much rather watch him in that.
He looked like he'd much rather be watching Usual Suspects as well. He looked like he couldn't be fucked being in this film, man.
But then, see, if you think about that though, I get like the acting was poor in it, but he was just so disengaged with the family, because he was done. He was like, I'm sick of listening to her pish. She's over the top in every way and form. He just wants his wee boy and his wee lassie, and he wants her to piss off, man, because she was nuts. She was the biggest. She was psycho all the way through it. There was weird. There's obviously the weird things with like the fire catching on her arm, and then totally wiping him out and stuff as well. That I felt wasn't really in tone with what was going on in it, because it was more talking about what the paranormal was. There wasn't as much actually going on, rather than like what was in their minds, what they were thinking. It wasn't enjoyable for me. I mean, I went and watched The Strangers at the weekend, and that's 10 times scarier than this.
Yeah, I think we should. I was going to suggest, by the way, but since you've brought it up, let's add that in as a bonus for next week, because I think you've already watched it. I've watched it. Let's do it. Have a third film.
Shaun,
I've got a wedding this weekend. Whole weekend.
Whole weekend a wedding? I didn't think it was that long, no?
Gone out on the Friday, got the wedding on the Saturday, and there's an after party on the Sunday.
Well, you're alright. It's only Monday. Plenty of time.
Aye,
Watch your Strangers
Tuesday,
before you go to
Wednesday,
bed.
Thursday.
Watch your Strangers before bed.
Busy life, guys. Right, whatever, I'll go for it.
So let's say watch The Strangers 10 times scarier in this film. I would not go back to watch this film, and I wouldn't recommend watching it. Definitely wouldn't recommend watching it. Burnsy, you started jumping in, so mate, crack on. What was your thoughts?
I think I'm probably more similar to Daniel, I think, than the others so far. Is that I don't think Toni Collette was as bad as what Shaun and Daniel make out, but I think she did overact. But I thought Gabriel Byrne, I didn't actually see the point. To me, the film would actually been better if they didn't even have the father in it. Because to me, add anything to it. Like, he was there, and obviously you said, like, he talked to his son a wee bit. It was kind of like just stuff like, oh, how you getting on? You done this at school, blah, blah, blah. But, like, there was no reason for it to be there at all throughout the film. Like, they could have just had her as a single mum with a son and a daughter, and it wouldn't have lost anything. Because the bits that what was the bit about the granny's grave or something? What was that song called? I didn't know.
So he's had the information from the insurance company that the grave's been dug up because there was. But then also, I felt like I missed the bit where he got told that there was damage that had happened there, that he's going through the insurance first of all.
So he got
so the phone call said desecrated. The grave's been desecrated. Right. So I don't think he knew that she'd been dug up. He knew that the grave had been damaged, and he didn't want to tell her.
Right.
So like, they could have made a wee bit more of that or something, because he was just like a pointless character, I thought, throughout it. Like you touched on, I thought Melanie Shapiro, she was the best in it. It's like I checked when she had died. I think it was like 35 minutes in or something, and I was just like, oh great. That was what the first hour and 15 minutes maybe. I thought that was really good. That was like a fairly decent start, but after that it went downhill. Similar to what Shaun was saying, is that it didn't scare me either. It's like at the very start there was like quite a lot of background music to begin with. It was as if they're trying to build tension. It just led nowhere, which I thought was really bizarre too. Like
just to jump in here, Hunter, do you have in your trivia how long the music was?
86 minutes.
What?
There was 86 minutes.
86 minutes of music in a 2-hour-long film.
Oh no, I mean at the very start.
But yeah, all the way through it though. It was all the way through
it. When Colour said that, I went from the very start of the film. Say it was like maybe the first 10 minutes or something. Sorry, no, I didn't spot it was as long as that though.
I just wanted to add that in because to me, I noticed the music. I never noticed music. I'm one of the worst ones in here for noticing that kind of stuff. I noticed how all the time there was loud music going on. Mm-hmm. And obviously I clocked that for the trivia because of course I never forgot that Hunter was doing the trivia this week and looked it up myself.
Man who forgot found.
I've closed my Word document down there that had all my trivia, but I just remembered that one.
I've already touched on the party bit, but as well as like leaving the body in the car, I was just like, obviously you're going to be like in complete shock concern. You've drove a car, you've just beheaded your sister, but like, you know somebody's going to find her. Do you know, like you wouldn't just leave the body in the car overnight and just wait for somebody to go and find it the following day, surely? That just seemed completely random and not that anyone would ever do, I don't think. It just seemed...
fair, none of us have ever decapitated our sister. So you wouldn't
No.
really know how to react in that situation.
But surely that could have
Right.
you do.
Dealing with the shock, plus the fact that he's just hit that bomb, Christ knows how many times, pretty much 2 seconds before he's went diving too. So
See, it's a good message, guys. Don't do drugs.
Or decapitate.
Or do more drugs, and then he would have been all
you
right.
wriggle yourself out after the shock.
Aye. Another bong hit, he'd be able to fucking pick the head up and it'd have been sound. Do you know what I mean?
And then as well as like, I thought that they could have had, which you sort of touched on a bit, Kyle, is like they could have done a lot more background with the story in terms of whether the viewer was put in the know in terms of what the granny was actually doing from the very start, or even just like when Toni Collette talks to her son and you find out how she was sleepwalking, because you didn't really know why there was tension between them two. It was just like it was as if the mum just didn't like the son and the son didn't like the mother until like an hour into the film, and it just came out of nowhere. Like they could have maybe explained things a lot better at the very start. But I thought the first hour was a decent film. But once it started going into the sort of ins and outs of like the daughter coming back and doing all the things with, I can't remember what her friend was, the granny's friend, that just kind of lost it for me. I understood it all, but it just seemed just too out there. I think I prefer films that are a bit more either realistic or ones that, for instance, like Hocus Pocus. It's just like that. It's just something that it's that far away from reality, and it's just a laugh. Whereas this was kind of like half serious, half paranormal activity kind of thing. So that was that just kind of lost me, I think. So.
Like I said earlier, this has got enough scenes in it to give a really good trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I don't understand, even watching the trailer, how there could have been scenes that would actually scare you, because I think I was about an hour and a half into the film, and I was until the last half hour. The half hour was a wee bit scary, but for the first 90 minutes of this film, I was more scared of Hocus Pocus when Sarah Jessica Parker jumps out of that bed.
Think the horse was coming to get you.
Aye, that's how like non-scary this film was for me until like the last half hour where there's a couple of scary scenes, but I don't think even any of them hit me as much as that scene at Hocus Pocus, and this is meant to be a horror film.
Well, I'm intrigued to see what will be getting said next week when we add the strangers into the mix. Hunter, you jump in and give us your thoughts and some trivia to go along the way, mate.
I will do indeed. I have got to lean more towards the way Shaun was saying. I did not enjoy this at all. I don't know what it is. It just feels like every sort of bog standard recent Netflix horror, like there's just no enough scare in it at all. It either tries too hard or just completely misses the boat altogether. What I did think also as well, it's not for me. It wasn't a horror film at all. It was like, Dan, I think it's similar to what you said. It's more like a over the top family drama rather than it being a horror, a psychological thriller, anything that maybe be in that ballpark. It just felt so far from any of that at times for me. There was a couple of wee clips or scenes when after the granny died, where you seen a ghost just sort of appeared and kind of went off screen again. The run of it then, where I thought I maybe had the credence to do something and maybe take that forward from there. But again, that just sort of all disappeared, and then after that it was just Toni Collette's over the top spiral and insanity from there on in, from one thing after another, and it just similar to yours, I just lost it from the more and more far-fetched that seemed to go. I just seemed to lose it for me. I mean, I got to the point with the bit at the end when the son now is so is it the grand's spirit that is now inside the son's body? I completely lost what happened at that bit.
That's what I picked up for the same as you, Hunter.
No fucking idea.
They would just now be some sort of behemoth of the devil with all these decapitated bodies bearing down at him / her at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I think
so
that's
fucking
essentially
weird, man. It's so
Aye.
so weird. He's standing, he's getting the crown put on him and all that, and there's somebody leaning down with a heat in front of him. And you're like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, it makes zero sense at all.
No, I just unravelled, and I don't know. Well, I just see some of the stuff for the trivia that the film, Shaun, you will be glad to know, the original cut was over 3 hours long.
Wow.
Let's watch that
The
one.
hour plus that they removed was just basically family dialogue, and I think maybe add some more of that and add a bit more background to the strained relationships within the household and take away some of this needless. I don't even know how you would categorise the last hour of this. It's just shite.
Aye.
Just
And
shite.
concentrate on making the film one thing rather than trying to. I wish even like there was a twist. It just sort of seemed to go for a different direction altogether. But again, I just did not enjoy it. I know I'm not one for enjoying horror films anyway, but this just does not seem to grab me properly in any way whatsoever. There was times it started to peak, but then it just sort of plateaued very, very quickly for me.
I think you'll enjoy next week better. We've got like The Descent and The Strangers and Halloween. I think that's a much higher standard compared to this.
Oh, sorry, that ruined 10 minutes of segments that I can move into there, eh?
No, we'll still talk about it then.
I'm only winding you up. But, yeah, I mean, does anyone else want to add any more into this movie? Any trivia you want to add into it at all, Hunter?
Trivia-wise, obviously I've touched on the one with the original cut being over 3 hours. On and on. Is it next week we're doing Halloween? Did you say that?
Yeah.
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 Right, there was a nod to Halloween in this film. So when with Peter, the son's first seen in the school, it says escaping fate on the chalkboard and they're discussing it in class. Whereas in the original Halloween, when one of the classroom scenes in that is also what they're discussing during that. So we'll get a little tie-in between both films.
Nice.
And most of the other trivia I seem to find seemed all about the director. So it sounds like he's probably just been on IMDb and writing loads of stuff about himself and his love for Ohio or whatever state that this was shot. And that's everything. 90% of the trivia seemed to centre around the director rather than stuff that maybe happened during filming or other stuff to do with other characters.
Oh, well, listen, guys, I think we should maybe jump onto the scores in a little second. But Potato M8XD says in the chat, a lot of gumph about Scotland. You're welcome to come in and put stuff like that in the chat, buddy, but at least give us a follow first, eh? That'd be ideal.
Aye. What a wank. What's he say?
But she's just unslagging us because we're Scottish.
No, just
No.
some gumph about Scotland. But anyway, guys, let's move on to scoring this movie. What did Instagram have to say about it, first of all, Daniel?
Very similar to Hocus Pocus. This was either sort of loved or hated, so there was a couple of really high scores, a couple of zeros. Somebody tried to give it a minus, but obviously I don't count those. I'll just give it a 0. But I ended up with a 3.07 overall. A couple of folk gave this a 5. I'll come back to it when I get my score. I don't quite get it.
Oh, well. Listen, I'm going to come in, I'm going to set the bar incredibly low, and I'm going to match Shaun's Hocus Pocus and give it a 0.75. I would actively tell people to avoid this movie. Shaun?
Because I enjoyed it a bit more than Hocus Pocus, I'm going to give it a 1.
Fucking hell. Bunzy?
I'm going to give it a 2 because the way I'm thinking is the first half of the film was maybe like a 3.25. I would have given it if half the film was just that was it, and then the second half was like a 0.75. It was just really poor. So a 2 for me.
2 for you. Hunter?
1 for me.
1 for you. And Daniel, you give it your score in your monologue, please.
I don't get why people like this so much. I think it's because it's kind of artsy, and I think people watch this and they think they should like it, and it's like, oh, this is a cool horror movie. But no, it doesn't really do it for me. I give it a 2. Like Bunzy, I like the first half, and then it just dies a fucking death after that.
Just dies a death completely on there. Well, IMDb's got it rated as high as a 7.3. What do the morons rank this movie at?
That's a 1.35 overall.
A 1.35 from the morons. Let's see where that takes it on the leaderboard. I scrolled far too high there for that. Hunter, Laura's going to appreciate this one. It comes joint 68th with Point Break.
I would much rather watch Point Break again, actually.
So, it is just below the Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and to be fair, I might be sure I'm up this high. I think I'd rather watch this than that shit. Joint with Point Break and slightly above National Treasure. Fantastic movie.
We've watched some of it rubbish, haven't we?
Oh, we've watched so much shite, eh? How many movies are we on now, actually? We must be on nearly 90.
Well, that's on 88. So we actually have here, guys, just to add this in, I was going to say off stream, but why not? We have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 movies that we've watched but not actually reviewed yet. Chris from What We Watching Tonight has jumped in and said, a very Marmite film, I love it, and gave it a 4.25, but can understand why people don't take to it.
Yeah, it's one of those. People do love it. Like it's very well liked. I don't know. I'm missing something maybe.
Yeah.
I'm missing a brain to watch it. I think that's my problem.
Maybe Chris has got a higher intelligence level than us 5 morons, so we can't actually grasp what's going on.
I don't think there's any doubt in that at all. Like, if you go on his page and look at his reviews, they're light years better than the shite I come out with every month.
That's it, guys. So
I think he's got a bigger brain than all 5 years put together, going by the combined total scores.
Well, we might as well plug him since he's spoken about so highly. Chris is on What We Watching Tonight on Instagram, reviews films quite regularly as well. So give him a follow and see his reviews. Much better than ours. But guys, a quick rundown of some of the films that we have still got to review, and we should maybe do a little bonus stream at some point soon where we can give a quick rundown of these movies. We've got movies such as Fallen Down, Snatch, The Revenant, Project Power, for fuck's sake, 1917, Straight Outta Compton, the worst film arguably that we've watched, Capone, Gangs of New York, Blow, Palm Springs, which is a little sleeper movie, I thought, and Flight as well. So some good movies to watch there. But yeah, we'll be hitting 90 next week when we get on to the 2 movies, which we're going to add a third one on, which Daniel did mention earlier. So the movies that we've got coming up next week are The Descent, which I didn't actually realise was a British movie until I had to do a post for Instagram.
Oh, so be careful with this, right? Because there's a British ending to this movie and there's an American ending to this movie.
I do know which one to watch.
Like what you do, Kyle, and you're sort of downloading it, watch the British version and not the American version.
Why is there 2 different endings? Surely that fucks up the whole way through.
Because Americans are fucking pussies and they can't handle things that end certain ways. So the British one's better.
So maybe Shaun will watch the American one then.
Gruesome.
I watched the trailer for this movie, and I must say I was fucking terrified.
This is up there.
Yeah, I've seen this before. It's like a monster.
Billy Big Boss.
I know.
I would say it's more like a claustrophobic idea for me, but because I watched the sequel to this, right, and after half an hour I had to stop it. And I was like, "What the fuck's going on?" And then I had to go. I looked it up, and it carries on for where the American one finished. They do a sequel.
Right.
So I was confused as fuck when I was watching the second one.
Well, we do have the Descent, and we have the absolute top-notch classic Halloween, which I watched on the off chance last week anyway. So it's but we're also, as Daniel strong-armed some of the boys into watching, we're going to watch The Stranger as well, which I watched at the weekend there. So 3 movies coming in for next Monday. Shaun is absolutely buzzing with the choices. Imagine, Shaun, having to watch 3 scary films when you're only supposed to be watching 2.
You have to take some annual holidays for your work to fit them on if you're that busy.
Well, I've got Friday, Monday off, but I'm busy both days. I'm the best man. I've got duties to do.
Well, do you know what? You're also the best man in this stream, so you better be getting all 3 of these watched so that it's ready for us.
And I'll find the time. I've actually seen all 3 of them as well. Laurie will be absolutely delighted to watch The Strangers because it's one again that she puts on all the time that you just hear You know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say it.
Yeah.
I've seen that before. I've seen Halloween to Death and The Descent. I've not seen The Descent in years, right enough, but.
Halloween to Death sounds like the latest shite sequel, eh? Halloween to Death, like the 9th one.
Remember Halloween H2O? Fuck.
Oh, man.
Anyway, guys, that does then bring us towards the end of the stream. So just to recap on there, we covered off Hocus Pocus and Hereditary. Hereditary, that one came in at a 1.35. And Hocus Pocus came in at 2.4, being the best film that we watched over the last week. Thank you very much for listening to us. Thank you for those that have watched us on Twitch tonight. Thanks for those that have watched us on YouTube. And a special thanks to those that are downloading the podcast. We really do appreciate that. That is us. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good night.
Cheers, bye.